I read 25 autumn and Halloween books this season, but which are the ones I'd actually recommend? Ahem. Are you listening? See if you can guess my top 3 books by looking at the visual clues. I won't ask you again. Make a list and check later in the video. Well, 'tis the season, so I decided to read as many autumn or Halloween vibe books as I can. Some were magical, some were witchy, and some were just plain creepy. I read 25 spooky books so you don't have to. And today I'm sharing the ones that truly stood out, including one that completely surprised me, but also, for the first time on my channel, I actually DNF'd a book. Wow, actually, I DNF'd two. Have a guess and see if you can work out which books they were from the 25 books. For this video, I've chosen my top 3 autumn or Halloween style books, plus I have included some honourable mentions, and also don't forget those DNFs that I told you about. Plus, if you want to see mini reviews of all the books that I've done for this video, check out my Instagram. I'll put the details in the description of this video. And as usual, I have done some visual nods for my top 3 books and also the universal theme of autumn stroke Halloween. See if you can catch them all. So we're going to go straight into my top 3 books for the spooky season. In third place, we have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. You'd know if you killed your best friend, right? Well, Lucy doesn't remember, but she was found wandering around with her best friend's blood all over her and close to the body. So she must have done it. At least that's what everyone thinks anyway. It's now years later, and Lucy has to go back to her hometown where the incident occurred. But a podcaster is currently looking into the murder, and he wants Lucy to star in it. So, what are some of the good parts of the book? Lucy is an unreliable narrator, and that is always fun. Plus, she really doesn't remember whether she did kill her best friend or not, so you have the suspense of the unknown as well. There are podcast interludes in real time as the case goes forward. Plus, you have secrets, betrayals, and a subplot of romance. So what are some of the parts of the book I wasn't as keen on? Now, obviously, due to the nature of the book, there are some dark themes, so check out any trigger warnings if you feel like you need to. I would have liked the romance in the book to be a bit more romantic. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that's not the main genre of the book, but I am a hopeless romantic at heart. Here are some of my favourite quotes from Listen for the Lie. A podcaster has decided to ruin my life, so I'm buying a chicken. People don't believe women who fight back. When a man lashes out, people say he's lost control of his temper or made a terrible mistake. When a woman does it, she's a psychopath. Some people will never believe you no matter how hard you explain yourself. Trust me, there's no pleasing people. If they're determined to think the worst of you, they will. To summarise the book, first of all, I'll start off by saying I read the book in a little bit, just over a day. It is very readable. I really liked the writing style, I thought it was great, and I liked how the information was given out piece by piece. It kept it more intriguing that way. I loved the fact that Lucy was an unreliable narrator. That made it a lot more fun, as is a secret that she is keeping. I rated the book 4.25 stars, and I would recommend you pick this up if you like twisty thrillers with fun, dark humour and a true crime podcast element. If you think in the terms of the TV series Only Murders in the Building, I love that show. So next up, or in second place, we have Ask for Andrea by Noelle W. Ihli. Brescia, Megan and Skye all trusted handsome stranger James, and they paid with their lives. Now, whilst they are dead, they're not gone, and they all have one last thing that they want to do. They want to stop James from killing again. So what are some of the good parts of the book? The book is really suspenseful and thrilling. What might happen? Can they stop James from harming anyone else? Is it even possible? I was on tenterhooks. You also really bond with the girls and you want them to win. The premise of the book is great, but it's also pretty scary because it can happen in real life as well. But what were some of the parts I wasn't as keen on? Obviously, due to the nature of the book, there are dark themes and also sad parts. You really do ache for the girls, especially. Here are some of my favourite quotes from Ask for Andrea. If I knew anything, I knew that right now she was hanging on every word Jamie Carver said. Because he was beautiful too. He was the kind of beautiful that drew you in before you even considered the fact that beautiful things can be poisonous. There were foxes, and then there were hounds, and then there were the animals who didn't fit into the natural order of things at all, who meant the hurt they caused every time. It was just a cat, but in that moment, it was everything. Overall, I was so invested in the book that I read it within a day. The premise is really thrilling. 3 girls basically try to stop their killer from murdering again. I loved the way it was told. I really felt sad for the characters and I was really gripped wanting to know what happened. I rated the book 4.5 stars. I felt like the book was so close to 5 stars, but it needed a little bit something extra at the end for me. No spoilers. But it was an absolutely brilliant book though. So lastly, and therefore in the top spot of the autumn stroke Halloween season, is The List of Suspicious Things by Jennie Godfrey. This book is set in Yorkshire in 1979. Miv is concerned that her dad is thinking about moving down south due to the Yorkshire Ripper murders. So Miv and her best friend Sharon decide to see if they can solve the murders themselves. They start by making a list of suspicious people and things, and they start with the people in their neighbourhood. So what are some of the good parts of the book? The characters, especially Miv. The author really captures a young girl's mentality and how she's trying to solve the crimes and the reason she's trying to do so. She's hyper-focused. The bestie relationship between Miv and Sharon is so adorable, and I loved their relationship and how it changed due to the circumstances throughout the book. Young girl sleuthing. Who doesn't love that? Plus, it was seriously gripping in parts. There are different points of view, and I think it worked really well with the plotline of the book. I also really loved the writing style and how it linked to the real life crimes as well. But what are some of the parts I wasn't as keen on? Obviously, if you're aware of the real life crimes of the Yorkshire Ripper, you'll be aware this book is based around dark themes. I really got emotional in parts of the book, and I was actually in a bit of a book slump after I finished the book because it was so good, I actually didn't want to go on to the next book because that would mean I'd finished the book, if that makes sense. Here are some of my favourite quotes from The List of Suspicious Things. Our Jeff isn't letting me go out on my own anymore. That's quite sweet, said the first woman. Mind you, he's probably just worried if Ripper catches me, he'll have no one to cook his tea. Why are you crying? Sharon asked through a watery smile. There was something about those left behind that made my tummy hurt, I wanted to say. For the women who died and the people who loved them, but the words seemed to be tied up in a jumbled knot in my head, so I just shrugged, and she nodded back at me. I suppose what I'd do is try not to think too far ahead, he said at last. If I'd considered for a second that I had to live months or even years without her. Omer stopped for a moment and cleared his throat. I'm not sure I could have kept going, but if I only think about the day in front of me, sometimes the hour or even the minute, then I can do it. I can keep living. To summarise, I did not want to put this book down. I thought it was so well written. I loved the relationship between Miv and her bestie Sharon. I am always a big fan of amateur sleuthing, and I think it always takes it to the next level when it's young girls for some reason. I like how it linked from the real life crimes to the fiction story. I rated the book 4.75 and I thoroughly recommend you pick it up. I absolutely adored this book, and honestly, I think if I was to reread the book, I would give it 5 stars. I really do think about it a lot. So that was my top 3 books for the spooky season. But I don't feel like I should leave the video there without giving you some other books that definitely deserve some honourable mentions. To start off with, I had 2 books from Ihli Poston on my list: The Dead Romantics and The 7-Year Slip. The Dead Romantics focuses on Florence, who is a ghostwriter for a famous romance author. She has a bit of a run in with her new editor, and very shortly after that, she sees him as a ghost because Florence can see dead people. The reason it deserves an honourable mention is overall the book is great. Florence's backstory, the interesting premise, and the romance. The 7-Year Slip's main character is Clementine, and after moving into her deceased aunt's apartment, she meets a man in her own apartment from 7 years ago. Yes, the apartment time travels. The reason I feel that this book deserves an honourable mention is 1, the premise of the story; 2, it has a romance you can root for; and of course, 3, the fun premise of what happens in those 7 years. Ihli Poston is a go-to for magical realism, and it is actually one of my favourite genres at the moment. The next honourable mention was a new author to me, Adrienne Young, with her book Spells for Forgetting. August, the main male character, left Saoirse Island under a cloud of suspicion for murdering his girlfriend's best friend. He's only come back to the island to bury his mother's ashes, and not everyone, or anyone, is happy to see him back. The reason this book deserves an honourable mention is because I really enjoyed reading it. The story was great. There is a second chance romance, a murder mystery, and genuine suspense. Plus, sprinkle in some magic spells as well. I was a big fan of the next book, which was This Spells Love by Kate Robb. Gemma casts a spell to forget her heartbreak over a failed relationship, but what she doesn't realise, it's going to change her whole life as well, which includes her relationship with her best friend Dax. The reason this book deserves an honourable mention is there are alternate realities. I really like the main male character as a potential book boyfriend. I like the writing, and there is also a character called Frank who is a spider. Enough said. Now, finally, for the honourable mentions, if you don't fancy a fiction book, but you still want a bit of magic, how about Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton? In case you don't know who Tom Felton is, he is one of the baddies from the Harry Potter films, Draco Malfoy. If you like child actor autobiographies and the Harry Potter films, then I think this book is for you. If you have the physical book, there are loads of lovely photos of Tom, and if you listen to it on audiobook, you get to hear Tom narrating it himself. Tom comes across as warm, a British cheeky chappy, and I was a big fan of it, even though I'm not a total Harry Potter stan. So that only leaves the DNFs for this spooky season. The first book I DNF'd was Hex in the City by Kate Johnson. Originally, I was going to do a review on the Best Hex Ever series. I read the first book and it was fine, not one of my favourites, but reasonable. The reason I DNF'd Hex in the City was I didn't like the writing style, it got on my nerves to be honest. The main character annoyed me, and just the type of style of book it is, it's just not for me. The second book I DNF'd was by Gregory Maguire. I haven't seen the film or the musical, but I do know the musical is quite beloved. Initially, I managed to get to 6% of the book, but I found it a bit of a struggle even then. So I left it a bit of time before picking it back up, and honestly, I didn't want to pick it back up. When I did, I managed to get to 20% of the book, but I felt like not a lot interesting had happened by that point, and it really grated on my nerves, to be honest. I've got too many books on my TBR just to read a book, even though I really dislike it. The second book I DNF'd was Wicked by Gregory Maguire. Gregory? So that is both the DNFs for this video and the first DNFs for this channel. Now, obviously, this is just my personal thoughts, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I'm sure many people will love these books, they just weren't for me. Now, before we go, I'm just going to go through the visual nods for each individual book, But first, the universal theme of autumn stroke Halloween. So we have the pumpkin, we have the Halloween jellycats, and we have my costume, which is witchy. I did have a hat, but it didn't fit, so we went without that. We have the gloves, and we have the wig. For Listen for the Lie, we had these nods. The headphone and microphone for the podcast element in the book, the tiara and cake as there is a wedding in the book, and a dagger as she is holding one on the book cover. As for Andrea, the nods were the drinks as that is a plot point in the book, the ghost as unfortunately the main characters have been murdered but they aren't quite gone, plus the coffee, drinks and cakes as one of the main characters worked in a coffee shop. And finally, for the list of suspicious things, the nods were the notepad and pencil for the list that Miv and Sharon write, the hammer for the murder theme, and the tie for the girls being school age in the book. I had a lot of fun reading all the books for this video. Please let me know down in the comments below, what is your favourite book for this spooky season? If you have liked this video, please do let me know by liking and subscribing. It lets me know you like this style of book review. If you feel like sticking around, YouTube thinks you'll like this video here.